Hello everyone, welcome back to VLSI for All. I'm Neeraj Cheryala, back with yet another expert talk on VLSI industry and career. And this time, I'm very honored to host Dr. Anuj Grover from IIIT Delhi. Thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation for this session. In fact, our whole team at VLSI for All is honored to host you with us. Thank you, sir. Thank you again.
Thank you, Neeraj. The pleasure is all mine.
Thank you, sir. Please let me introduce you, sir. Anuj sir is currently the chairman of Institute Innovation Council at IIIT Delhi, associate dean of IRD, and an associate professor in EC department at IIIT Delhi. Prior to this, he worked as a principal engineer at ST Microelectronics for almost 19 years. Anuj sir is a hardcore promoter of creativity and innovation. He's a trainer for in-house training from creativity to innovation at IIIT Delhi. He has a profound knowledge on circuit design, especially SRAM circuit design, and has got several publications and recognitions in the same. I hereby take all the pleasure once again in welcoming Anuj sir to our channel. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Neeraj. Thank you for the very kind introduction.
Yes, sir. So before delving into the session, we would like you to introduce yourself to our audience. Although I've introduced about your career a bit, we want to hear it from you.
So you actually gave a very nice introduction, Neeraj. What I can say is that all the things that you talked about are good, and they are achievements that people on the outside would see. What is most important from where I look at it is that we should be good human beings. So that is what I strive to do. I strive to be a better human being every passing day. And I think there is no bigger introduction than that. Beyond that, everything is immaterial. It doesn't matter.
In fact, I got to know about you as a person with two of the courses, sir. One was your talk at VLSID 2022, where you gave a talk on SRAM cell, and other was you conducted a workshop on digital VLSI design. It was a workshop from IIIT Delhi. So those were the two sessions which I've attended, and I've experienced your teaching and also your introduction as a person and all. So those were very interesting, sir. In fact,
thank you for the
yes,
kind
sir.
words.
Yes, sir. In fact, from all the students across the country, I thank you for arranging such workshops. Even though we are not a part of IIIT, we are able to experience your teaching with those workshops. So,
yeah, it is my
on
endeavor
behalf of
to.
yes, sir.
It is
On
my
behalf
endeavor
of
to
all
bring
the
out
students,
all this
we
everyone.
request you to yes, sir. On behalf of all the students, we request you to conduct more such workshops from IIIT. Those were very interesting.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you. We will
Yes,
do
sir.
that.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So recently there has been a lot of media coverage about electronics and VLSI design branch, which is going to be started from IIIT Delhi. So could you please talk a bit about that and how it is actually beneficial to the students who are going to join in that branch?
Okay, so thank you for this question, Neeraj, because I'm myself very excited about this branch. If you go to a little bit of an history, I think in late 1990s, the electronics engineering started to get converted into electronics and communication engineering, because that was the time when internet was, starting, and communication, mobile phones, everything was, at the transition point, at the cusp where things would simply explode after that. And the world needed more communication engineers. So electronics engineering converted to electronics and communication engineering. And that doesn't mean, the need for communication engineering has dwindled. But today, at least the way India is and the way electronics is exploding all over the place, every little thing today has electronics in it. We are interacting with each other on an electronic medium. We are using phones, we are using televisions, even bulbs and tube lights, they have electronics in it. So electronics is everywhere. And there is a lot of intelligence that electronics adds to each and every sphere of our life. And therefore, we felt that there is a strong need to have a branch where VLSI, which is an enabler branch for electronics and computers and all these applications, should be taught with sufficient rigor so that we have good VLSI engineers in the country. So that was where, electronics and VLSI engineering came forth, where what we have done is we have kind of substituted a few communication courses from the mandatory coursework section and replaced that mandatory coursework with VLSI courses. And for the students, just like communications took the frenzy of the world and grew exponentially, VLSI is at that same stage. Students who pursue VLSI engineering, and we are on VLSI for all channels, so I think each one of us is well versed with the potential and the opportunities that VLSI has to offer. Students who join the VLSI industry at this stage, they will actually experience an exponential growth in terms of prospects, in terms of opportunities, and we feel that this is the most opportune time to join a branch like EVE. So I think opportunities abound. There are going to be more jobs, there are going to be more research opportunities, there are going to be many more startup opportunities. The government of India is putting in a lot of focus on developing an ecosystem for semiconductor manufacturing in the country. So there's going to be a flood of jobs, a flood of opportunities that await the students who graduate from these courses. So I believe it will be a big win for everyone who joins this program.
Yes, sir. It's exactly what the industry requires right now, and I guess there's a very good decision taken by IIIT Delhi. Actually, in fact, many students that I know, they feel that even though they're not at all, not so much interested in communications, they'll have to study some communication subjects which are very specific to communications. They're not used in VLSI design. So it will be beneficial for students who wants to study those specific subjects related to VLSI design. And I guess it would also help them to study master level courses in bachelor's degree itself with this
Yes.
specialization.
Yes. So what happens is that in the current set of scheme, or in the current scheme where ECE is the primary branch, students would take VLSI courses as electives. And then in every college, there is so IIIT has a very flexible curriculum, and we have a huge number of electives that we offer to our students, but not every college does that, one. And second, even when there are large number of electives, there are still more that could be done, which a student is not able to do because of, time clashes, timetable clashes, and so on. When a student joins the EVE program, what happens is that they're not spending time and course slots on communication courses. So they are utilizing all the course slots that they have. If they want to, they can utilize them for VLSI courses. And they naturally get an opportunity to get more exposed to VLSI, do master's level courses while in their BTech. We believe that students who would graduate with EVE from IIIT Delhi would be ready for a PhD degree right away, because they've already done advanced courses and projects, and they are exposed to VLSI in a manner that any MTech student is, probably better than that, because we have more time and to gradually introduce these courses to the students, and it makes a very big difference.
Yes, sir. So maybe with this, we can see a lot of research from students from early on in their career into VLSI, going into VLSI.
Yes.
So that's yeah, yes, sir. So throughout your career at ST Microelectronics, you have been in ST Microelectronics for about 19 years. So what were some of the very interesting projects that you have worked on that you could remember? I know that almost every project that you have worked would be interesting, but in your opinion, for you, what were some of the challenging and most interesting projects that you have worked on?
Okay. So, a few projects actually stand out, and they stand out also because probably no one else in the country has done such kind of projects that we got exposed to at ST Microelectronics. So I am a memory designer, so I was in the memory design team at ST. And with memory design team, what the beautiful thing was that we were a bigger team, or we were the biggest design team for memories in ST worldwide. So we were leading the architecture design, we were leading the methodology design, we were the leaders. In fact, the Noida team still continues to be the leader in defining the strategy of ST for embedded memories. And due to this leadership position, or due to this kind of an exposure, this kind of a responsibility, we were exposed to designing very interesting memories, which would probably never come to a person in any other company, at least not in India. And we have worked on cross memories, where you have two ports, where one port is orthogonal to the other. So typically when we talk of dual port memories, we have two port memories, which the two ports are kind of parallel to each other. It's easy to access, it's easy to read, and control logic is much simpler. We worked on transpose memories, where you would write on the rows, but you would read from the columns. So we have done very interesting stuff. That was one kind of memory that we have worked on. Then, as the technology scaled, see, frankly, when you purchase a new laptop or a new phone, you expect the performance to improve, isn't it? If your last laptop was operating at 2 gigahertz, you would now want it to operate at 2.4 gigahertz, 2.2 gigahertz. It should improve.
Yeah.
You expect it to be cheaper also. Okay, this extra performance at a cheaper cost, not even the same cost. You want it to be cheaper. But for memories, it doesn't really happen that way. So while the remaining logic and other part of the technology would shrink with scaling in technology, memory cell area does not shrink. At least in the advanced technologies, it doesn't shrink. And even then, you have to give that performance gain to the user, give that cost benefit to the user, and also prolong the life, because the devices are leakier in advanced technologies, and you have to have techniques which would reduce that leakage, which would manage stuff in a different way. So the challenges were immense, and projects were exciting. Every new technology that we transitioned into, a completely new set of challenges came. One of the key challenges was that as the technology scales, variability increases. Now, on one side, I am saying that the performance of the area of the memory cell is not reducing. So performance of the memory cell is not improving, again, because area is not reducing. Performance is also not improving because the currents are already low. The memory cell is almost the minimum size already. And over the top of it, there is a variability challenge. So what we realized early on was that Gaussian assumptions no longer work for memory cells. And that led us, me and my team, to explore methods to verify the memory self-timing, memory design without this Gaussian assumption. So we had to delve deep into statistics. We were 10 years into our jobs, left statistics long behind us. But here we were again touching extreme value theorems and probability, and arriving at logical estimates, at logical methods to be able to verify the SRAM. I think that was one of the most exciting and the turning point in my career also, because till then I was mostly into memory design, architecture design. Over here, when I did this, I actually realized that there is a huge potential in methodology design also, and that there are possibilities to publish work, and there are possibilities to patent. So that was the first project where we actually went through that grind myself. I went through that grind myself, and it was exciting. We were the first ones, I think, across the world to come up with that kind of a methodology, which was more accurate than what even IBM. So IBM, we always felt, was the world leader. IBM was always, in terms of methodology,
new methodology
updates, it's always far ahead of others. So we realized that we benchmarked, and we realized that our methodology was better than what IBM had proposed. in one of their papers. So we were really proud of this work, and then that set me out to say, okay, yaar, maza aa raha hai. I should pursue a PhD, and then I pursued PhD, and then after some time I felt, oh, I should probably go out and teach. So that is when I left ST and joined IIIT. So I think that project on methodology design for self-timing, replica path tuning, that was a key turning point in my experience.
In fact, it feels very good and honored about listening to someone who is working at cutting edge in any technology. So you have worked in
Yeah,
at
it is
cutting
fun.
edge.
It is fun.
Yeah.
It is fun. Yes.
So you were talking about going to teach at IIIT Delhi. So that's our next question actually. So you have worked in industry and you have worked on cutting edge technology in memory design. So why all of a sudden after doing your PhD, you wanted to go and teach to the students?
So Neeraj, it was not actually all of a sudden thing. So we had Professor R.N. Biswas, who was a mentor at IIIT Delhi, and who was also consulting us at ST Microelectronics. I'm talking about 2011-2012 timeframe. At that time, I was still pursuing my PhD. So Professor Biswas would visit IIIT, and he would also visit ST. And at one point of time, he told us that they're launching the ECE program in 2012. And if I would be interested, I could teach a course at IIIT. So I've always, as you yourself mentioned, that I have been a trainer at ST Microelectronics and all that. So I've always conducted training sessions. And that was, I think since 2003, 2004, I have been conducting trainings at ST. So it did not require too much of an experience to conduct trainings. I was like, I love to share what I know. And when this opportunity came in 2012, I jumped onto it. And while I was still pursuing my PhD, I started to teach at IIIT while being a part of ST. So ST enabled this. ST is I personally feel ST is a very gracious company. It enabled this for me. Not just for me, many other people. Many of us were teaching at IIIT while we were working at ST as guest faculty at IIIT. So I got a taste of teaching regular courses while at ST, while I was still pursuing my PhD. I also started guiding students on projects so they would do a course with me, and then those who were interested to continue to work on some topics that I was interested in, they would join ST as an intern, and I would guide them on the project. So all that was happening. All that was happening through these 2012 to 2019 when I finally joined IIIT. So it was not that it was a sudden decision. It was just that it slowly grew on me that I enjoy this work a lot. I enjoy interacting with students. I enjoy sharing my knowledge. I enjoy sharing my experience with the students and help them grow. So that's how it happened.
So it's clear that it was a gradual decision and you were already into teaching indirectly.
Yes.
So you have, sir, I mean, have you worked on in-memory compute, since there's a lot of work that's currently going into processing in memory and in-memory compute? And if so, how is memory circuit design when it's designed for memories with brains?
Yeah, so see, I liken it with the evolution of life. So there was a time when there was no neural system. Then we gradually developed a brain, and gradually that brain did not just do storage of information, it started to do decision making and calculations. That is when human beings came into picture. So that is what is happening with our chips also. There was a time when there was no separate memory at all. Then there came a time when there were register files and there were memories. Memories would only do storage. And today we are in a stage where the kind of compute that needs to be, that you cannot really transfer all that information from the memory to the circuits where that information is required or where the processing can happen. So this is famously known as von Neumann bottleneck. It's something like saying that your brain cannot send all the information for computation through the spine to body parts. Like the hand doesn't really decide it has to form a fist. It is my brain that decides that and then just informs the hand that please form a fist. So that is what is now going to happen more and more with our processors also. Different parts will no longer be deciding by themselves, or the processing will actually reside more and more in the memory itself. So it will no longer be just the memory, it will be the brain of the processor there. So I'm not saying this will happen instantaneously. It is gradually happening. That is the trend we are observing. And in fact, I am working on it. Quite a few of my students are working on it. We have worked on digital in-memory compute. We have published work on embedding security inside the memory. So we are doing security-related computations inside the memory. I have another student who is working on analog in-memory compute for artificial intelligence, that is neural network implementations. Another set of students have worked on in-memory compute for graphic processors, where we studied what are the most commonly used functions in a graphic processor where memory access is required. And we have pushed those things inside the memory. We have those functions are now completely embedded inside the memory, so that data transfer is avoided. That is no longer required. And we are able to improve the energy efficiency of the system multifold. So not just the performance, but even the energy efficiency of the system increases multifold. So this is a very up and coming field. You rightly said that. And I am enjoying working in it. I'm really enjoying working in it along with my students.
Yes, sir. The analogy with the evolution of human brain was interesting, in fact. And also the answer which you just gave, that makes it very attractive to students. That makes IIIT Delhi very attractive, because with the projects that you're mentioning, those are very good opportunities for students.
Yeah. So if anyone of your audience is interested to pursue a master's, or just just do some research, or in fact pursue a PhD program at IIIT Delhi, we are always open. We do not have a cut date that okay, you can apply for admissions only now. Whenever you feel like it, please feel free to approach me. I will be happy to review the problem statements that I have with you. We can identify joint in problem statements of mutual joint interest, and we can take them up. So please feel free to reach out.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Yes, sir. So thank you about saying about those opportunities at IIIT Delhi, sir. In fact, I've seen some of your posts on LinkedIn wherein you mentioned about PhD positions at IIIT Delhi in your team. So I guess students
Yes.
will benefit from finding those posts on LinkedIn.
Yeah. So they can always they can always check out my profile on LinkedIn. It is Anuj Grover. So they can always do that, and they can connect with me, and they can always be updated about the kind of work we are doing and the openings that we have in our teams.
Yes, sir. Interesting. And apart from in-memory compute, so what are the other advancements that have been going very recently in memory circuit design? So you could share if you have any in your.
Yeah. So in-memory compute is one dimension of work, Neeraj. Another dimension of work is related to, okay, so let me take a step back. So when we talk of in-memory compute, that is enabling and making our portable systems much more energy efficient. So do you know that Google Alexa, or Alexa and Google Home, sorry, Amazon Alexa and Google Home, what they do is they actually transfer all the data, all the voice that you write, that you speak to it. They send all the instructions back to the cloud. They process those instructions there, and then the output comes. That is not actually required. And you cannot really have IoT in this manner if you have to operate real-time systems. For example, if you talk about security, what if the the people who are sabotaging security actually just cut the internet connection, then all your smartness of security camera would go away, is it not? So we want calculations, we want processing to be done at the edge. So when we say that I'm working on in-memory compute, that is the kind of applications we are enabling, making our lives smarter and not dependent on the cloud. Okay, doing much more computing on the edge so that we can be more and more resilient. The other dimension which touches our lives in a very big way is electrification of cars. So, 20 years back or 30 years back, there was hardly any electronics component in a car. Today, a new car could have up to 1,000 electronic chips in it. Do you know this? More than 1,000 electronic chips in one car.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. True.
So the overall bill of materials, electronic bill of materials of the cars is increasing tremendously. Now, this is a good thing for the electronics industry, but it does not come cheap. It does not come easy. For example, when we talk of a cell phone, let us say your cell phone hangs up for 2 seconds. You will simply wait and you will let it come back. Am I right? Suppose it did one wrong calculation. Suppose there was a small blip in one of the pixels of the image that is being rendered. You will probably not even notice it. Am I right? Now, imagine that the car that you're driving, there is a system that is calculating the amount of braking that needs to be done. Because it is measuring the distance from the car ahead of it. You're talking about self-driving cars or more intelligent cars. It is measuring the amount of or the distance between yourself and the car ahead of you. And then based on that distance, it wants to apply brakes. In that calculation, applying brake meant minus of acceleration, and acceleration would have meant a plus sign. Just one bit. The positive and negative integers are differentiated by only one bit in our number.
Yes,
Suppose
sir.
that one bit gets corrupted. Instead of slowing down, do you realize the car would accelerate and there would be a huge crash that would happen? It's no longer one pixel not being rendered properly. It is a matter of life and death. So when we talk of using of electronics in automotive industry, there is a big challenge of ensuring the safety. So there are standards for safety, ISO 262 standards for safety of each and every component that goes into cars. And when electronics goes into cars, there are very stringent standards for safety for electronic components also. We call them ASIL, A, B, C, D, and so on. So for components that go into braking, acceleration, fuel injection, coming up of the airbags and so on, these are life critical functions. So chips and components that go into these parts of the car, they have to be ASIL D certified. ASIL D means that you are extremely error resilient. First, so you're error resilient in the sense that even if an error happens, you're able to recover from it. And not just that, you also have the capability to preempt an error, to predict an error. That, okay, now since aging has happened, or now since this thing has happened, I predict that there could be an error. Or I predict that this could be the error rate, and so on. So we are working in our team on diagnostic circuits, which can themselves raise a flag, raise a hand and say, oh, while I calculated this, I made this computation, there's an error over here. I know there's an error. While you ask me to access row number 25 in a memory, I tell you I have accessed row number 28. So there's an error. Please don't use this data. So we want circuits and components to raise a hand and say, oh, I'm in error. Please ignore my data. Either redo the calculation or use calculation from my friends. So typically in such life critical functions, we use what is known as triple modular redundancy. So instead of one processor, there are 3 processors. So once the memory in one processor or a circuit in one processor says, oh, there is an error, then we know this processor's output has to be ignored and that of other two has to be used. So as the technology is becoming more and more advanced, as we are scaling further, the probability of errors creeping into more than one core is increasing day by day. So we have to be much more careful. TMR may start to fail. Even with TMR, we will need to add many more features which would not only tell that there is an error, but also predict that there could be an error in the next cycle or in next 100 cycles or so on. So in our team, we are working on circuits which estimate the reliability, which kind of measure aging of the device. So it's interesting work that we are doing in the domain of safety. So we are working on circuits which raise a flag, and we are working on circuits and systems which also measure aging and then predict that, oh, now since aging has happened, you can expect more errors. And since you are getting more errors, next time you go to the service shop, you better get the motherboard changed. You see? So when you now dock your car into the service station, the service engineer would know that, okay, this particular chip on this particular board has started to age and it is no longer safe to allow it to be there. So all that predictive maintenance and all these things are going to be the norm going forward. And that is what we are working on. In addition to, as I said, in-memory compute. So again, there are design openings, there are research openings in this area. Those who are interested can join in.
Sure, sir. And that was in fact quite insightful about the work that's going into memory design very recently. So in fact, I can relate with your answer, especially the security thing that you talked about, the one bit flip with deceleration or acceleration. That was actually critical. And I've read a paper where they talked about DRAM memory bit flips. So how could that affect? So yes,
Yes.
security is an important, very important aspect, as you told. Yes, sir.
Yes. So we're also working on security. So, I'm not sure if you are aware, but your processor consumes a different amount of power when it is calculating something with a 0 than when it is calculating something with a 1. And
Yes, sir. Can you just
hackers,
brief us about it? How it's different? I mean, in simple words.
okay, look at it. Let's say we are adding two numbers. One is 1000 and the other one is 1111. So you will see that when you add these two numbers, only one bit generates a carry. The MSB generates a carry and nothing else. So there is one kind of power consumption. Now consider you're adding 0111 and 0111. So every bit will now generate a carry. So, or let us say 0111 and 1001 or something like that. Every bit will generate a carry and the power consumption profile will be very, very different. And people can actually trace the power that you consume by doing backside imaging of your chip. So what they do is they thin away the chip and they just see where the heat map is. And they can know what kind of heat is being generated. So what kind of energy is getting consumed, they can find out. They can give parasitic vectors to understand the data that you are using, the keys that you are using, and so on. So that is a big challenge when you talk of cryptography or security. So there is one beautiful thing in memories, Neeraj. It is that whether you read a 0 or you read a 1, the memory would consume the same amount of power. Like you can have memory architectures where whether it is a 0 read or a 1 read, whether you're writing a 1 or a 0, it consumes the same amount of power. So we built upon this premise that, okay, memory by its very nature is data agnostic. It does not change power consumption based on 0 or 1. At least we know there are architectures which are data agnostic. And we use such architectures to design an in-memory compute paradigm where security algorithms were embedded such that hackers can no longer distinguish between 0 and 1 estimations. and we're doing calculations inside the memory. We have designed adders, we've designed other circuits, which are again data agnostic. And we're doing that kind of work also. So security is also something which is hot, and we are at that too. So we have a good group, we have a big group, and a lot of students, uh, I don't know why, but there are a lot of students just come and work with me. So I'm able to do work in different domains. And I would welcome you also. If you would want to do something, do some research, we can find projects and we could work together.
Yes, yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. And in fact, it was quite insightful and knowledgeful as well, what you have just talked about memories. And I guess students who some of whom didn't know you before, maybe they'll get to know now with this session, and they'll join you on your team.
Yeah. I look forward to that. I welcome the students.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. So going forward, so in current scenario, especially in VLSI design, so what do you think about going for MS or MTech? So which is a better option? And do you have any comments on that part? MS from universities from other countries, or MTech at top IITs or even IIIT?
So if you want to go and pursue MS from another country, uh, I would say that you may get more exposed to the intercultural dynamics. You will become more global in your outlook, and that has its own merits. However, if you want to talk about learning topics and the kind of research that is happening, and if you pursue MTech in India, especially at the leading IITs or place like IIIT Delhi, then I believe that the quality of education that we have to offer over here is equivalent. And the kind of exposure that we are able to give you on the projects, like I gave you some samples of the projects that I am working on, and I'm sure my colleagues at the good IITs, the IITs which have a strong VLSI group, they are working on equally exciting problems which are very relevant to the industry and would excite anyone. Like I am pretty excited about whatever I am working on. So somehow I assume that what excites me should excite others also, though that's not always the truth. But I think people in India are also working on very exciting, very relevant problems. And if you are choosing between MS outside of India and MTech in one of the good IITs or at say IIIT Delhi, I would say in terms of quality of education, there's hardly any difference. In terms of technical exposure, there is hardly any difference. In terms of going and experiencing and living in a different country, obviously there is a difference. But if you are say from South India and you're coming to Delhi, then you're already experiencing a cultural shift. So that will anyway help you grow. But then there is also a very huge difference in the kind of fee that you have to pay. So you have to choose. Both options are good. And I myself pursued my MS from University of California, San Diego. So I know that the campuses in the US are good, and that global experience helps. I went on a scholarship, so I did not really have to pay too much. In fact, I could save a little, but you usually do not get scholarships for pursuing a master's program. And then you have to decide whether you want to take that kind of a leap, or you could probably just do a MTech from IIIT Delhi or one of the leading IITs, and and still learn and grow technically.
Yes, sir. In fact, that should make clear about choosing between MS and MTech, because we got this question from many of the students with respect to the knowledge that they would acquire. And with what you have said just now, with respect to the knowledge, it's very equivalent, very much equivalent, what we are doing in
Yeah.
India and abroad.
Yeah, in fact, Neeraj, I would add that master students in the US universities also. Like I was at UCSD, and I doubt that any of my master students' colleagues published many papers there. Like they do, but it was not very common. Mostly PhD students would publish papers. Whereas at IIIT Delhi, my master students frequently, in fact, regularly publish in conferences, in journals. So at IIIT Delhi, the exposure that you get could actually be comparable or even better than what you would get at a university in the US.
Yes, sir, that helps a lot actually, and that's very interesting to know about it. So coming back to memory again, so if any student who is just starting out his career in VLSI, especially in memory design, let's say, so how should he or she go about choosing their path in memory design? I mean, there are several areas that they could work upon. Let's say even we have memory controllers as well. So how should he or she should go about?
So see, I would not keep the answer limited to memory design or memory controllers. I would rather give a broader answer to this, Neeraj, because I know that in your audience, very few people will finally go into memory design. But what I'm going to tell is not limited to memory design, but about anyone starting a career, and that to not just in VLSI. Wherever you are starting a career, I can probably give you a few tips around that, because I've worked in the industry for reasonably long and have mentored hundreds of interns and new joinees, and I think I can probably give you some pointers onto what is important to take care of when you when you start a career. The one thing that I would say is that the first few years of your career, they are going to be a very, very steep learning experience. Whether you are pursuing a BTech program, or you are pursuing an MTech program, or you are pursuing a PhD, or even if you have done a postdoctorate, I assure you that once you join the industry, the learning curve is going to be steep. If you approach work with an attitude that I know it all, I don't need to learn anything new, you are stunting yourself. So the first and foremost, the most important thing that has to be taken into consideration is that you have to be open to learn. Frankly, even though I say that at IIIT Delhi, we train our students to be industry ready, they can go and contribute from day one onwards. That is truth. There's nothing hiding from the fact. We actually train the students on the latest tools, the industry standard tools. We give them the projects that I just mentioned about. So while we do all that, even then, when you join the industry, there is a huge learning curve. So I tell all my students that, see, until you are a student, you are paying a fee. You are a customer. As soon as you join the industry, now you are getting paid. So you transition from being a customer to being a vendor. Till the time you are in school or in college, someone else has some responsibility of your learning to ensure that you learn. As soon as you join the industry, that responsibility lies solely on you. Not just that, it is not just about your growth that the responsibility lies on you. On you also lies the responsibility that you have to deliver an output to the company that is paying you. Someone is paying you a hefty amount of money for doing what you're doing, and you better deliver. So the first few years involve a lot of learning and involve a lot of hard work. Don't hesitate to put in long hours. I remember in the beginning of the first few years, I would put up to 12 hours, 14 hours a day in my office. And it was no big thing. Okay, over time, as my responsibilities at home increased, family responsibilities, and then other things that I am involved in, those responsibilities increased. I brought it down to something like 10 and then 9 and then, the regular working hours. But initial few years, don't hesitate to put in that extra time, that extra energy, because you do not have much responsibilities around you yet. And you can actually leverage your time to learn more, to experiment more, to fail more. Don't be afraid of failing. It is only through failure that you will learn. And very importantly, do not compete, but strive to collaborate. See, all through our education system, from class 1 onwards, wherever the school gives ranks, wherever the institutions give ranks, your parents kind of hammer it into you. Bache first aana, you to come first in your class. Oh, tum first nahi aaye, who came first? How far behind are you? So much of hammering of first is done that we never teach collaboration to our students. We are undoing that in IIIT Delhi. So at IIIT Delhi, all the projects that I do, there are more than 3 or 4 people working on the project, so that you learn how to collaborate. And that is the way you will finally get to work in any industry team also. There are big teams that go about to deliver what needs to be delivered. It is never an individual effort, it is never an individual output there. And this teamwork you have to learn. And to learn this teamwork, first thing that you need to do is you need to leave aside that spirit of competition. And you need to bring in a spirit of collaboration, that I will work together with my friends and both of us will grow together. Instead of, oh, if that person grows, then that person is taking away my opportunities. No, please do not operate from this scarcity mentality. As I mentioned, in VLSI industry, we are at the cusp where there is going to be exponential growth. And as a matter of fact, in any industry, if we are good, if we are growing faster and and we are learning more every passing day, there's no dearth of opportunities for anyone. Even in the industry where there are very few jobs, it is only by learning, reinventing yourself, and collaborating with others that you will assure a job for yourself. So these are some things that every student should always keep in mind. Every student bhi nahi main kahunga, I would say anyone who is starting a career, changing a job, or doing anything like that, there is no replacement for hard work, there is no replacement for perseverance, and there is also no replacement for collaboration in the knowledge society. In the knowledge society, if you do not collaborate, you fall behind. So you better collaborate and learn from each other. You cannot fail every time all by yourself. You learn from, when you collaborate with others, you also learn from other people's failures, and that is how you grow faster. So again, as I said, it would be unfair to advise only memory designers somewhere. I think anyone who joins any workforce, they should take care of these things. I hope my answer helps.
Yes, sir. It's quite helpful. In fact, the approach which you have taken, it should help many students in clearing many doubts in their mind when they are just starting out their career. Even some students, they overthink when it comes to their career options. So the answer which you just gave should help them definitely. Thank you, sir. Thank you once again. And
thank you.
Yes, sir. So a couple of more questions before we call it a day. So we know that recently India is very active in talks about VLSI, and it has also started a Chips to Startup program, and India's semiconductor mission is also on the rise. So what do you think about VLSI startups, especially in coming 5 years, let's say, near future? And how do you think India would grow in VLSI as a whole?
So I'm pretty excited about the prospects, Neeraj. The first set of startups that I expect to happen would be in embedded systems. At least this is my personal view. I feel that embedded systems are a low cost entry. Like the entry barrier in embedded system based startups is not that high. When you talk of a chip design or an IP design based startup, the entry barriers are relatively higher. So if you are thinking of ideas, IoT ideas, and system design ideas, I think those are the startups that should start pretty soon, anytime now. Okay, there are many, but I think with the rich crop of engineers that we have, a large audience that you have for your channel, I think that we can do much more. In terms of embedded system startups, we use existing available microcontrollers, existing and available evaluation boards. I know that every microprocessor company has their evaluation boards, which if you simply stack one over the other, just like Arduino, you stack them one over the other and you have an industrial kind of a design ready.
Yeah.
You
Off the
should be
shelf,
able to
yeah.
prototype. Yeah, you should be able to prototype and get a proof of concept ready within just 2 or 3 days. That kind of availability is there. So, and I see that people are not utilizing this as much as they can. So that is the first set of startups in electronics and system design that I expect to happen. Then there will be startups, and there are already startups in terms of service companies and in terms of IP design. So service company kind of startups already exist. There are many. More will come. But IP design, they will gradually rise up the value chain and start to do IP design by themselves and add more value. I still think that a final SOC design startup is a little distant. So you could have startups working on that, but then you will realize that those startups are not entirely based out of India yet. You will have startups which came up in the US and they then have offices in India. So those kind of startups would already and will continue to do chip design. But to say that India-based chip design will happen and the ecosystem will be there, I think there is still some time to go for that. But yes, it will happen. I'm sure it will happen. We are training our students so that it happens. It will happen, and it's just a matter of time. But the first wave of startups should be around embedded systems.
Yes, sir. In fact, it's a matter of time, as you're saying. And what are your comments on chip manufacturing? We have recently known that Vedanta is investing in a plant in Gujarat, reportedly. So what do you say about chip manufacturing in India, and how should India approach manufacturing? I mean, the technology nodes that India should work upon starting out.
Yeah. So see, I understand that you and I want to talk about 5 nanometer and 7 nanometer, but the explosive growth of VLSI is not because of 5 nanometer or 7 nanometer. The explosive growth of VLSI is because of, let us say, availability of sensors, which is because of very cheap, dirt cheap chips which could be put in electric bulbs, LED bulbs, and so on. And these are things which scale pretty big. Every house would have at least a few bulbs, would have a few lights, and they do not require 7 nanometer technology. They do not require 5 nanometer technology. That doesn't mean India doesn't need to go there, but that is not the place where we should even think of starting. I personally believe that India can do well by starting at a reasonably mature node, let us say 28 nanometers, and first learn and build capacity around it. Once you're stable in a mature node, then you can simultaneously do R&D, simultaneously develop more advanced technologies. But once you're stable, once you're active in a mature node, that is when there is a possibility of growth beyond it. So I think that more mature technologies where uncertainty due to defectivity is low, where the process is mature and deployed across the world, that is the place where we can enter. It is low risk. The time, the gestation period is less because so many other places already have everything up and running. So you can also start and go up and running soon enough. So when we are starting to build any capacity, I think it should be around these technologies, the more mature technologies. And there is a plethora of products that we can build around them. As we start to taste success, as we start to learn, improve the yields on these mature technologies, gain expertise in these mature technologies, that is when we will be able to actually work on more advanced technologies. So I'm not saying that we should not go to more advanced technologies. All that I'm saying is we should not aspire to start with the advanced technologies. We should start with the mature technologies, and then gradually we will see that advanced technologies will come in picture.
So you're saying that we should build the ecosystem and capacity first, and then go towards 5 nanometer, let's say. Yes, sir.
More advanced R&D later.
More
Yes.
Yeah, got it. So when you look back almost 20 years ago, when you were just starting out your career, so what do you suggest Anuj sir 20 years ago when he's just starting out his career with any, I mean, career tips or any, in general, any tips that you want to tell him? What would you say him? What would you suggest him? The other way around,
So
maybe some of you may have you are willing to suggest him the things that he shouldn't do, but he has done mistakenly. Were there any of such things that you want to suggest him, or in general, could you suggest those to our audience as well?
yeah, so frankly, I would say that I'm happy with whatever happened. I'm not a person who carries regrets and who thinks about the past too much. What has happened has happened. We can't change that. So I do not think of it like that. But now that you ask, if I reflect, I would say that probably I should have, I mentioned to you earlier that when we did that project on methodology design for self-timing, where we entered into statistics and started to look at circuits from a completely different perspective, that changed my approach to work, and I realized that I could publish papers and do all that while still working in the industry and so on. So I think that probably if you can, you should start to explore such opportunities early in your career. I could have done that, but there was not much guidance around that then. So I stumbled upon it accidentally. I would put it like that. So I believe that even while you are in the industry, there is an immense opportunity to publish. You already put patent when you are in the industry. So patenting would anyways happen, but publication should also and can happen. The intent of publication is not to have a long list behind you. The intent of publication is to be able to share what you know and help the overall ecosystem of knowledge become richer. So I think that if I had to relive a few years and had a foresight, I would have started to publish something, a few years earlier than when I did. So that is one thing. And again, publishing was not for the purpose of getting.
So I hereby conclude this session. So thank you, Dr. Anuj sir, and thank you all for joining us today for this session. And we wish you good luck with your career, and we'll be back with yet another session on VLSI. Thank you all. Goodbye.
Bye.
Yes.